to death. But many bore false witness against him, but their testimony did not agree. And some stood up and bore false witness against him, saying,
"We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands, and in 3 days I will build another not made with hands."
Yet even about this their testimony did not agree. So the high priest stood up in the midst and asked Jesus,
"Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify against you?"
But he remained silent and made no answer. So again the high priest asked him,
"Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?"
"I am. And you will see the Son of Man at the right hand of power, and coming with the clouds of heaven."
And the high priest tore his garments and said,
"What further witnesses do we need? You have heard his blasphemy. What is your decision?"
And they all condemned him as deserving death. And some began to spit on him and to cover his face and to strike him, saying to him,
"Prophesy! Who is it that struck you?"
And they said many more things against him, blaspheming him, and the guards received him with blows.
When day came, the assembly of the elders of the people gathered together, both chief priests and scribes. And they led Jesus away to the council, and they said,
"If you are the Christ, tell us."
He answered them,
"If I tell you, you will not believe. And if I ask you, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God."
So they all said.
Are you the Son of God then?
You say that I am.
What further testimony do we need? We've heard it ourselves from his own lips.
Then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning. They themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters, so that they would not be defiled, but could eat the Passover. So Pilate went outside to the Jews and asked them,
"What accusation do you bring against this man?"
If this man were not doing evil, we would not have delivered him over to you.
And they began to accuse him, saying,
We found this man misleading our nation and forbidding us to give tribute to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king.
"Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law."
It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death.
This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken, to show by what kind of death he was going to die. So Pilate entered his headquarters again and called Jesus and said to him,
"Are you the king of the Jews?"
Do you say this of your own accord? Or did others say it to you about me?
"Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?"
My kingdom is not of this world. For if my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting, that I might not be delivered over to the Jews, but my kingdom is not from the world."
"So you are a king?"
You say that I'm a king. For this purpose I was born. And for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice.
"What is truth?"
After he had said this, Pilate went back outside to the Jews and told them,
"I find no guilt in him."
but they were urgent, saying,
He stirs up the people, teaching throughout all of Judea, from Galilee even to this place.
Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the people any one prisoner whom they wanted. And there had been a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them,
"Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?"
For he knew it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him,
You have nothing to do with that righteous man. I've suffered much because of him today in a dream.
Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. So the governor again said to him,
"Which of the two do you want me to release for you?"
Barabbas! Then Pilate took Jesus and flogged him. Pilate went out again before the people and said,
"See, I am bringing him out to you that you may know that I find no guilt in him. Behold the man."
When the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out,
Crucify him!
"Take him yourselves and crucify him,
The Jews
for I find no guilt in him."
The Jews answered him,
"We have a law, and according to that law, he ought to die, because he has made himself the Son of of God.
When Pilate heard this statement, he was even more afraid. He entered his headquarters again and said to Jesus,
Where are you from?
but he gave no answer. Again, Pilate said to him,
You will not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you? And authority to crucify you?
You would have no authority over me at all, unless it had been given you from above. Therefore, he who delivered me over to you has the greater sin.
From then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out,
If you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend!
Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar.
So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying,
I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves.
and they all answered him,
His blood be on us and our children.
Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified.
So the soldiers of the governors took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and twisted together a crown of thorns. They put it on his head, and a reed in his right hand. And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying,
Hail, King of the Jews!
Then they spit on him. They took the reed and they struck him on the head.
And as they led him away, they seized one Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and laid on him the cross to carry it behind Jesus. And there followed him a great multitude of the people and of women who were mourning and lamenting for him. But turning to them, Jesus said,
Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming when they will say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed. And they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and the hills cover us. For if they do these things when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?
Two others who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him. And when they came to the place that is called the Skull, there they crucified him. And the criminals, one on his right, one on his left. And Jesus said,
Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Pilate also wrote an inscription and put it on the cross, and it read,
Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews.
And many of the Jews read the inscription, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Aramaic, in Latin, and in Greek. So the Jews said to Pilate,
Do not write King of the Jews, but rather, this man said, I'm the King of the Jews.
What I have written, I have written.
When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his garments, and they divided it into 4 parts, 1 part for each soldier, also his tunic. But the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. So they said to one another,
Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it to see whose it shall be.
this was to fulfill the scriptures which says,
They divided my garments among them. So for my clothing, they cast lots.
So the soldiers did these things. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother, and his mother's sister Mary, wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother standing there, and the disciple whom he loved, he said to his mother,
Woman, behold your son.
and he said to the disciple,
Behold, your mother.
from that hour the disciple took her into his own home.
And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying,
You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself.
So also the chief priests with the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying,
He saved others, he cannot save himself.
He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross and we will believe in him.
he trusted God. Let God deliver him now if he desires him.
He said, I am the Son of God.
The criminals who were also crucified with Jesus reviled him in the same way. One of them railed at him, saying,
Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us.
But the other rebuked him, saying,
Do you not fear God? Since you yourself are under the same sentence of condemnation, and we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the land. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying,
Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani.
That is my God, why have you forsaken me? And some of the bystanders hearing it said, This man is calling for Elijah.
After this, Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said to fulfill Scripture,
I thirst.
a jar full of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of the sour wine on a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said,
It is finished.
and Jesus, calling out with a loud voice, said,
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
Having said this, he breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said,
Truly, this man was the Son of God.
There were also women looking on from a distance, among whom were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, mother of James the Younger, also Joseph and Salome. When he was in Galilee, they followed him and ministered to him. And there were also many other women who came up with him to Jerusalem.
Since it was the day of preparation, and so that the bodies would not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken, and that their bodies might be taken away.
So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first